Welcome, everyone. My name is Karen Carey, and I am the Chancellor at the University of Alaska Southeast. And this event is one of my favorite events of the year, and I so wish we could be in person. As you know, it takes a lot to plan these events, and at the time we were planning, we thought we didn't know where we would be with COVID. And so we decided to do another virtual event this year. But I am really, really hoping we can definitely be in person next year. I would like to start off by giving my highest praise to Emily Wall, Professor of English. Emily holds degrees with an MFA in poetry from the University of Arizona, a Bachelor of Arts in Literature, and a Bachelor of Arts in German from Colby College. She has published 4 books of poetry, with her most recent published this spring, Breaking into Air, Birth Poems. Emily, I thank you for your sincere dedication to Tidal Echoes. The senior editor this year is Emily Bowman. Emily is a senior pursuing a BA in English with an emphasis in creative writing. Emily has lived in Alaska her entire life and in Juneau for the last 15 years. She enjoys reading, writing, playing guitar, coaching figure skating, and being barefoot. This semester, Emily was awarded a Eureka grant to attend the Association of Writers and Writing Programs Conference to learn how to improve marketing strategies for future years of Tidal Echoes. The junior editor and fall intern is Shailene Moeller. Shailene Grace Moeller is an English and Environmental Studies double major with an emphasis in creative writing. She grew up in Cake, Alaska, and in her free time, she enjoys hunting, fishing, gathering, hiking, photography, and playing guitar, ukulele. She has been published in the 2019, 2020, and 2021 editions of Tidal Echoes, the spring edition of Ravencall, and was the 2019 recipient of the Mac Barron Scholarship. She will also be featured in the spring 2022 edition of Alaska Women Speak, and as an honorable mention in the 2022 ADN Creative Writing Contest. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Emily and Shailene for the rest of our program. And let me just say, it's just so thrilling to see our friend Saul Neely on this Zoom tonight. Thank you, Saul, for being here.
Thank you so much, Karen. Hello, all. My name is Emily Bowman. Firstly, we at Tidal Echoes would like to acknowledge that we live and work on the traditional lands of the Akwaan people. We are forever grateful to the Linked people who have been stewards of this land, as well as innovators and creators since time immemorial. Gunash Chish. Our program should be short and sweet tonight. You just listened to the UAS Chancellor, Karen Carey. We'll have some short introductions from myself and my junior editor, and then we'll move on to the presentations and Q&A sessions for our 2022 featured artists. Jill will go first, and Kirsten will go second. We should have you out of here by 6:05 so y'all can go out and enjoy some other First Friday activities. We do have some requests for Zoom etiquette throughout the night. We would like to ask that you keep your mic off. As well as that, we would like you to not raise your hands during presentations, so that way we don't accidentally distract our presenters. And we'd like to encourage you to keep your cameras on if that's something you're comfortable with. After each question, we'll have a moderated Q&A. We ask that you would type your questions in the chat with the format of question in all caps, colon, then your question. Now don't fret, that was a lot of information. We will be posting it periodically throughout the chat tonight, so you don't have to try and remember it all. So yeah, with all of that, it's time for me to introduce myself. As Karen said earlier, my name is Emily Bowman. I am the senior editor of the 2022 edition of Tidal Echoes. I'm a senior at the University of Alaska Southeast, pursuing a BA in English with an emphasis in creative writing. I've lived in Alaska my entire life and Juneau for the majority of that time. When I'm not editing, you'll find me with my nose in a book, at Treadwell Arena, or going on barefoot adventures. With that, I'd like to offer a massive thank you to our Chancellor Karen Carey, as well as our Provost and the Dean of Arts and Sciences, Maren Havig and Karen Slokades, respectively. I'd also like to offer thanks to our amazing Tidal Echoes board, Math Trafton, Jay Sapansky, Ida Heather Burge, Jeremy Kane, and Liz Zacher. Without your feedback, the journal would never have made it as far as it has. Another huge thank you to Emily Wall, another board member and the faculty advisor for Tidal Echoes. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of the amazing roller coaster that has been the last 2 years of working on Tidal Echoes. With that, I'd like to offer the stage to this year's junior editor, Shailene Moeller.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shailene Moeller, and I was the fall intern as well as the junior editor for Tidal Echoes this year. I'm a double major in English and Environmental Studies with an emphasis in creative writing. And I've been involved with Tidal Echoes for several years now, having been published in the past 3 editions. And it's been an honor for me to be on the other side, editing Tidal Echoes and being part of Tidal Echoes' mission to bring the voices of Southeast Alaska together and lift Southeast Alaska creators up. Tidal Echoes is where I got my start, and it was the first place I was published, and being able to give that to other people has been incredible. With that, I would like to thank our Vice Chancellor, Lori Klein, our Executive Assistant to the Dean, Amy Bannerman, our Social Media and Marketing Strategy Coordinator, Katie Jordan, our Manager of User Services, Cody Bennett, John Lizensky, our web developer, Jennifer Gross, and Alaska Litho, especially Nolani Kamaheli, who has been a huge help in publishing this edition of Tidal Echoes, and Amy Kinchelow, our creative manager. With that, I would like to introduce this year's featured artist, Jill Kaasteen. Jill Kaasteen Meserve is a Tlingit artist, and she's of the Kuchinati Eagle Brown Bear clan and the Hidach Yellow Cedar House from Hoona. Jill works in various forms of cultural arts with a particular focus on beadwork. Jill's work can mainly be found on her Instagram page at jill.kaasteen, though you can also catch her work at her work on the hit FX show Reservation Dogs. With that, here's Jill Kaasteen.
Hello, Ganesh Han here. Let me share my screen now. Okay, can you see this okay? Yeah, good. Okay, hi, hello, welcome everybody. Hi, hello everybody. Thank you all for coming. It's so good to see you all. And welcome to the 2022 Tidal Echoes virtual launch. Kaasteen yuchit duasak lingit enach chukanedi chitsati chaihetach kachinakawudach deknintan dachchan. Ganilchish ak kwan has du anikach yechayati yagi. Hi, hello everybody. My name is Jill Meserve. My Tlingit name is Kaasteen. I am Chukanadi. I come from Hoona. I'm a grandchild of the Tuknaintan and Ganilchish. Thank you to the Akwan, who it's their lands that I live on today. I am a UAS alumni. I graduated from UAS with my bachelor's in Alaska Native Languages and Studies. I am a Tlingit artist. I also work full-time as a Tlingit language immersion instructor for Hayukatungi Kudi, which means our Tlingit language immersion nest, and this is through Klinkin Haida. I am so excited and honored to be with you all today and to be the featured artist of UAS's Tidal Echoes publication this year. I'm here to talk today, tell you a little bit about myself and share some of my work with you as an artist. I know that my time is a little limited, so I'll try to talk fast, but hopefully not too fast. Let's see. So like I said before, I grew up in Hoona, and here's a picture of me and some of my classmates in Head Start. If you don't know, Head Start is a kindergarten readiness program offered through Klinkin Haida. This is me right here in the little red robe there. I've been so fortunate to have grown up in Hoona, and it was throughout my school years there that I learned how to bead and to what eventually led to my language career. At the end of each school year, Huna City Schools puts on a big ku'ik. So ku'ik loosely translates to like a potlatch, but really it just means that people were invited. This event that the school puts on is a community-wide gathering that is culture and language based. The entire school will dance and sing their way in for an entrance. Each class will take turns performing skits, demonstrating their language use, and of course, lots of food. So like I said, Huna City Schools also offers language classes from grades K through 12. And some of this time is spent in preparation for this annual ku'ik. And one of my earliest memories of beading was I was probably around first grade and I was stringing beads on the bottom of a yellow tunic in class. And then once I got into middle school, we had Tlingit language classes half of the week. The other half is spent doing cultural-based crafts such as weaving or beading. And it was from these classes and from my aunties, Sonia Johnson and Carol Williams, that I learned the method that I still use today. And of course, a special shout out to Kashka Duffy Wright, who is my Tlingit language teacher. Okay, there are so many different ways and methods of beading that are out there, but I think there are two main categories that it can be like put into. One is what I hear as like bead weaving, and the other is flat stitch beading. Bead weaving is the term that I hear the most for this, and it simply means that items are created by just stringing beads together in various ways. There's a lot of times you'll see things like these earrings on the left, which uses like a brick stitch on the top, and then it'll hang loose fringes of beads on the bottom, or there's methods that can be used in like the round like peyote stitch, like this one that's here on the right. And I've seen these used a lot for like ropes or necklaces or lanyards, or even sometimes around the ends of like eagle feathers. These examples here are made by my aunt, Dawn Houston. Her Instagram is Dawn Houston Creations on Instagram. So this is bead weaving. The other type of beading that I see a lot that I mentioned before as well is flat stitch beading. Flat stitch beading simply means that there is a medium that you are laying the beads down onto and attaching them to that. Sometimes it's felt, other times it's like leather. I've been seeing a lot more common now, like beading on a tan fish skin. There's so many materials. This example here is a piece that my mother-in-law, Janet Hotch, recently finished. This is a beaded raven and frog design. These are the crests of the Tibnach Adi, which she attached to the back of a vest that you can see here on the right. This is just such an exceptional example of flat stitch beading. Her work is like incredible, and I'm so fortunate to have her in my life and as a mentor. Flat stitch beading is also the method that you'll see on a lot of Tlingit regalia. Like you can see here on this tunic, the seaweed patterns at the top, or you'll see them on things like octopus bags or even on headbands. So like I said, I learned to bead when I was in grade school, but it wasn't, I was well into my adulthood that I really took beading seriously as an artist. After I left for college, I jumped around from like craft to craft. I was knitting a lot. I took ceramics, I sewed, I took photography. I jumped around a lot. And I think that I learned a little bit from each craft that I still utilize today in my beadwork. And then just like salmon find their way back upstream, I found my way back to beading. And I really akin this piece here to the one that like really hooked me and like solidified me in my craft. This is a beaded Formlined face barrette that I made, and to the right is its muse. This is a dance apron titled Becoming, created by one of my like all-time favorite artists, Alison Bremner. I have been in love with this piece since like the first moment that I saw it, and I was so inspired by it that I created a beadwork piece. And this barrette depicts the Formlined face that's like right smack there, and like right smack dab in the middle of this apron. So I made this, and after this I was hooked. I've been hooked, and now all I do in my spare time is bead. So I'm going to take you now through a few of my favorite pieces and tell you a little bit about them. It's really hard to choose what to share with you all in the limited time that I have. But this one here is a beaded Formlined style hand medallion that I made. And a medallion is like a necklace. This medallion was commissioned by CJ Yellowhawk. She was a fundraising coordinator for the village of Tuluksek. For anyone who doesn't know, the village of Tuluksek was without running water a few summers ago after their sole source of running water had burnt down, which was like a city laundromat. She did a lot of fundraising and advertising on social media for it, and Taboo of the Black Eyed Peas caught wind of this. He promoted the issue a lot. He also donated thousands of bottles of water to the village himself. And CJ commissioned this piece from me, and it depicts, so like I said, a Formlined style hand. On the inside of the hand is a water bottle with, of course, water all flowing around it. And the title is Water is Life. And she gifted this to Taboo in recognition for all the assistance that he did for the village of Tuluksek. These are 3 identical beaded frog medallions. These were private commission for members of the Kaasteen clan, whose primary crests are raven and frog. Their design shows a frog coming out of a burrow with, I believe it's a sundog that's around them. This design originated from the beaded pieces recipients. It was an original piece that their great-grandmother did, and I redid it and made them into medallions for them. And this one here is a beaded chilkat face medallion inspired by what you'll see a lot on the back of some woven chilkat blankets. It's also sitting on top of a cedar hat that I made a few years ago. I took a class with Holly Churchill, and she helped me through that one. This was a custom commission from Sterling Harjo himself, depicting the Muskogee Creek symbol, which you can see he also has tattooed on the back of his hand. I met Sterling before his Rise Dog days, back when he was still touring with the 1491s. The 1491s came to Juneau, and like myself and a few friends met them during the day before their show. And then he and I stayed connected over Instagram after that, and he eventually commissioned this piece for me in like late 2020. And he contacted me again shortly after that, commissioning 2 of probably my most recognizable pieces. If you are a child here today watching this, this is a microphone and a pickle and nothing else. If you are a parent or just simply an unknowing adult, yes, this was intentional. If you haven't seen Res Dogs yet, please go watch it. It's so phenomenal how universal so many of our experiences are as Indigenous peoples, despite there being like hundreds of different cultures spread across the Americas. I won't spoil anything for you guys, but these pieces are in season 1, episode 4. What about your dad? If you don't know, that's a call out to the old movie Smoke Signals. And I'll just say that these pieces will make a lot more sense when you see them. If you're here today for the Tidal Echoes virtual launch, you probably recognize this piece. This picture was used for the Tidal Echoes cover this year. This was a beaded caribou skull pin that I made for my friend Bobby. This was a part of a fall theme challenge that I saw on Instagram. And so like, as you can tell, I experiment a lot with my craft, creating something that's sometimes traditional, quote unquote traditional, using these same methods to create a piece of art that is more, I don't like to use the word modern because we are Tlingit people, we are Indigenous people, we're here, we are modern, but something that's more broad in the scope of art and incorporating things that are more pop culture, I suppose. But sometimes, you know, I feel really limited from what can be done with beadwork, and other times I feel really challenged and inspired. Beadwork, just like any other type of art, is simply a medium in which to express an artwork or an idea. Excuse me. Like this piece here. Almost a year ago, my family and I lost someone who was very, very important to us, and we lost him really unexpectedly. He was our friend Kurt Berry. Kurt was just a very dear person to us. He was my partner's best friend since childhood. He was a godfather to our daughter. It was just one of those pillars in your life that you never could imagine how like life could go on without them. But Kurt was, he was always hunting and fishing and sharing his harvest with the community. He also really loved the movie The Outsiders growing up. So he had Stay Gold tattooed across his knuckles. And he had always dreamed of someday operating a business where he could sell seal oil that he rendered down, and he wanted to name it Stay Gold. So I made this piece about 2 months after we lost him, and I had a really hard time creating anything at the time. I rarely ever created anything for myself, and so this was a chance for me to make something that was both for myself and to remember him by. He's still with us in so many ways, and our daughter still talks about him a lot, but he's very important to us. I really adore this piece, and I think that this is one of the few things that like I had really been inspired to make after we lost him. So it was like me picking myself back up. But moving on, this is another one of my favorite examples of how I like to incorporate my work elsewhere. This is clearly not traditional art, but it's still made by me with the techniques that I learned through our arts. I get asked a lot about where my inspiration comes from, and like really I get it from anywhere. This was a creepy little pin that I made in collaboration with my good friend Joe Camoli. It was from around Halloween time. Joe did the original drawing, and it was like he had made them into stickers, and it's called Stalker. His original drawing was called Stalker, and I thought it would just be a fun piece to put into beadwork, and so I did, and it was a fun challenge. Sometimes it's just about indigenizing things in our own way. Like this here is a hat build that I beaded. The hat itself was made from a good friend of mine from Ewing Dry Goods. Ewing Dry Goods makes a lot of really high quality leather things like belts, wallets, handbags. He also makes these waxed canvas hats, all by hand. And the whole thing is like really flexible, so you can like fold stuff into a bag or something. But I collaborated with him, and I beaded onto the hat brim. And the beadwork in here depicts some spruce root basketry pattern designs. These include things like the goose print that's like right here. I don't know, can you guys see my cursor? Okay, it's the goose print is like right here in the middle. These triangles here are the half head of the salmonberry. It also it reflects down, so it's mirrored down onto like the bottom edge of the hat too. So this gold part right here makes like a diamond. That one's a droplet. And the same thing right here, it kind of makes like a triangle going down onto the bottom side. That's the flying goose. And these kind of triangles over here are bear tracks. So I do a lot. I'm always looking for new things to like inspire me and to challenge me, and it's a lot of fun. I really like what I do. But thank you all for listening to me today. A huge thank you to all of the staff that has worked on Tidal Echoes: Shailene, Emily, other Emily, Katie, anyone else involved that I may have missed. If you get the chance, please go check out this year's edition of Tidal Echoes to learn more about myself and my beadwork, and alongside so many other great artists and writers from the community. If you would like to find me on social media to follow my work and my journey, from various social media pages. So yeah, that's all I have for you.
Thank you so much, Jill. That was beautiful. With that, we'll open up this presentation to questions for Jill. If you have a question, please raise your hand or type it in the chat. Okay, Jill, looks like we have a question from Carrie Fenno, and they ask, how long does each of these pieces usually take to create?
Oh, yeah, that's a hard question. It depends a lot on how, for one, like how big the piece is, and also how intricate it is. I would say medallions about like 4 inches wide could take me maybe about 2 weeks. And it's also because I do work full time. And so my time available to actually bead is limited to evenings or weekends. But maybe in terms of like hours, I guess, I bet medallion maybe be like 15 to 20 hours, depending on the complexity.
We got another question from Amy Batterman asking, how do you start a piece? Do you start off with a drawing and go from there, or is it freestyle?
Ooh, that's a good question. I like to do from a drawing. I use a method where I will like attach the picture to a piece of felt, and then I'll bead right on top of it to try and get it as close as I can. Sometimes it does take like a lot of like pulling it all out and restarting if I like need to resize it or like adjust something a little bit. I say that I'm very notorious for restarting projects, maybe a little too much. I think there was one hat that I knitted one time I completely ripped out and redid like 3 times. And some of like my beaded pieces, like the little like Formlined eye pieces, I think I restarted that one 4 times before I finally got the image just right. It's really interesting. It can be difficult to know how like an image will translate into beadwork. It's a skill in its own, I think.
I have a question. If you have pieces such as the ones that you showed, what's the best way to keep them healthy?
Ooh, that is a good question. I think just trying to keep them clean, keep them out of the sun if you can. Some beads will have like a certain, like if they're dyed, some of the colors can fade on them really quick. But I think I would just care for them as you would any other piece of jewelry. It can be, it's a pretty fine art. Yeah.
We got a question from Karen Cox asking, do you only bead traditional designs of your clan?
Yes and no. Like the pieces that I did of like the Ganach frogs, those were a commission specifically for people of that clan. I personally wouldn't like just go off and bead something that is owned by another clan just for the sake of doing it. If I'm going to bead something for myself, I would just do something from my clan. So I am an eagle bear, and so I would just bead a bear or an eagle if it was something that I was going to use. But there are also like octopus bags that I'm working on, that I'm making. Those sometimes the designs are really like handed down within your family. I don't know if it's necessarily clan based though. So yes and no.
We also have a question from Emily Wall asking, what are you currently working on?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me show you really quick. I'm at like my beading desk right now too. So right now I'm working on bigger pieces for more like exhibit, I guess. This is a piece commissioned by Sea Alaska Heritage Institute, and this is going to be an octopus bag. If you guys can see this. Hello. So this is the design I'm working on right now, but my blur won't go away. I don't want to show you my guest bed in the back. But this is what I'm working on right now. I've been working on it for a couple of months. It can take maybe another month to finish, hopefully.
Awesome. We got another question here asking, is there a technique you use for the color placement of your beads?
Oh, interesting. I guess, yes. I think that's like part of the skill in beadwork is the colors that you choose, how the beads lay, even like the direction that the beads are facing when you put them down. I think it's all very intentional and it's all very, very specific to each beader.
And Linda Buckley asks, are you beading for celebration?
Oh, I am trying to, yes. I'm hoping to sell at the artist market. So as soon as I finish up this octopus bag, I'm going to focus on bigger market pieces, I guess. I don't have my commissions open right now, but hopefully I'll have an inventory for celebration. So yes, I'm trying to.
Awesome. Are there any other questions?
I have one more question because I'm having a hard time typing it out, but what is the largest piece that you've created?
Oh, I think the largest piece I've created was a button blanket. So it's a pretty big piece. Yeah. I was really fortunate. I got to take a class at UAS with Keith Lyle James, and it was like I think it was like a regalia making class. And so I got to do that for that class. It was really nice. Yeah.
So we got a question from our senior editor, Emily Bowman, asking, is beadwork hard on the eyes, the hands? Seems like a physically challenging form. Do you use any specialty tools to minimize the impact on your body?
Oh man, the hands, the eyes, the back. Sometimes I'm just like crouched over and like in a little ball beading. It can be pretty challenging, especially with the beads that get smaller. I do find that like really good lighting helps me a lot to see a lot better. But I do know a lot of beaders that have like, they'll wear reading glasses and that'll help them see a lot better. Or they even make like these, it's like a light stand that also has like a magnifying glass thing attached to it. So you can like look down at it instead of just wearing the glasses. But I think, yes, it's a lot more like physically consuming than it seems like it would be. And especially like sewing and beading, I can't tell you how many times I've like stabbed myself and had needles like go under my fingernail. But you know, having a good balance is always important, getting up and taking lots of breaks, which I know that I need to do better about too.
We have one last question here from Lily Pothier asking, what is the smallest piece that you've ever beaded?
Smallest piece, oh my gosh. What is the smallest piece? I don't know about the smallest piece. Maybe if you guys haven't shown yet the back of the cover, I made little like blood droplet earrings. Those are probably some of the smallest ones I've done. I've also, the little like creeper pin, the little green guy, that one used some of like the smallest beads that I have. That one, oh, I also beaded a pickle rick one time, a pickle rick necklace that's like, it was like this big. And the face on that too used some of the smallest beads that I have. They're size like 22. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Jill, and I'll pass this over to Emily.
Cheese.
Thank you for wow. Thank you so much for sharing, Jill. I really appreciate all of the beautiful work that you do and that we were able to feature you in our journal this year. We're going to move on to Kersten now. We are excited to welcome this year's Tidal Echoes featured writer, Kersten Christianson. Kersten Christianson is an Alaskan poet, moon gazer, raven watcher, northern trekker, teacher. Kersten Christianson derives inspiration from the wild, wanderings, and road trips. Kersten is the poetry editor of Alaska Women Speak. She authored Curating the House of Nostalgia, What Caught Raven's Eye, and Something Yet to Be Named. Kersten lives with her daughter in Sitka, Alaska.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me all right?
Mhm.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen here real quick. Let's see if I can make the magic happen. Oh no, you are screen sharing. Let's see here. Try that one more time. Well, I'm going to share. Up to the top. Oh. Let's see.
Kirsten, you want to try closing out of the screen share and opening it back up
Yeah.
to choose your slideshow?
I will do that. For some reason, it is not full screen though. Okay. Share. So still not up, huh?
It is still not up.
Interesting. Share. Let me close out that. Well, my goodness.
Of course, it was working when we started. Isn't that always the case?
It is always the case. Interesting.
I'm just going to stop your sharing and maybe see if it.
Give it another shot.
I stopped your sharing. Yeah, give it another shot. Third time's the charm.
No, it's not up. It's not happening.
Kirsten, I have it. Do you want me to try screen sharing myself?
I would love that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So why don't you do stop share?
Okay. I think I'm out of it. Hey, there you go. I see it. It's magic. Okay, well, I do appreciate that introduction, Emily, and I'm just really happy to be here today. I look around and it's great to see friends and family here with me today. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about writing in general and then read some poems here at the end. And if we could go ahead and advance that to the next slide, that'd be great. First of all, I'd like to thank the crew of Tidal Echoes for this opportunity to crack open the window on my writing inspiration this afternoon. Editors Emily Bowman and Shailene Moeller, your work here is both much appreciated and an experience you'll never forget. I also thank the muse who keeps the lights on through winter and oversees the path of publication to launch, Professor Emily Wall. I swear Emily's efforts launch actual spring in these parts. Come March, I often wonder if I'll first hear from Tidal Echoes or see skunk cabbage. As Nora Marks Downhauer once wrote in her haiku, Spring, skunk cabbage punching through the ground, punching to spring. It's an honor to also share space with artist Kaasteen, whose work is vibrant, thriving, and that cover is amazing. Thank you especially to friends and family who are also here. And as always, I'm humbled and grateful to present from the historical and traditional lands of the Tlingit Ani here in Sitka. Next slide, please. To a handwritten letter. In these days of distancing, masking, texting, and messaging, I wrote a letter earlier this winter to accompany the mailing of my poetry collections to a new friend. And while it's not so unusual for me to write or receive letters, the enormity of the blank page caused me pause in this situation. I came across a Margaret Atwood quote not too long ago that reads, "Anytime you sit in front of a blank sheet of paper, it's a risk situation." And in this moment, I felt that. What could I possibly say about these collected words that I stand behind, whose parts as poems envelop love, loss, and wild? And on a more personal level, am I even the same person who wrote these poems 5 to 10 years ago? So I'd like to capture some of the gears, wheels, and ratchets of this letter as explanation for creative drive, writing process, why we can't put down the pen and the paper or even the technology, and ultimately the beauty of taking a chance and saying simply yes. Next slide, please. Break out the technology. When I consider writing, my mind doesn't jump first to the poetry drafts I have saved in my hard drive, color-coded. Rather, I conjure up a running file of snapshot moments like what you see in front of you. Not so unlike that messy, unorganized, and seemingly random array of photos gathered in iPhoto. Upward of 37,000 on last count. I think that sometimes we're quick to discard technology as nothing more than mere distraction, but at times technology offers me amazing tools. My photos here serve as a capture of a moment and often morph into writing inspiration. The app's voice record and notes both come in handy while out walking. When a line sneaks into my head that I don't want to lose, or I'm tapping out haiku with steps taken for the day, it's easier to record these things on my phone to revisit later. And while I love nothing more than a handwritten marked up poem, the number of blank journals collecting dust on a bookshelf is testament to the idea that maybe that type of writing for me is more purist than realist. Though I still have high hopes of knocking off the dust and actually filling them with words at some point. Next slide, please. Allow your poems space. While admittedly I lean on technology for early drafts and later editing, I work best with paper copies as I move into assembling an actual manuscript. I often hang my poems outdoors, taped to windows and doors, strung along segments of string. Sometimes I'll lay them out on a beach, anchoring their four corners with stones. I like the idea of their exposure to the elements while they flap in the wind like migratory birds or even prayer flags of a paper sort. But I also like to see them in the settings I tend to write about in my poems. In winter, they hang from blue tape on the walls of an empty room in my house, gather chicken broth sunlight from the window that collects in the afternoon. Because I can best walk among them this way, I can see the shape of them, how they work together. Because they hang from blue tape, I can easily shift their order, take them down occasionally for further editing, reading, or moving into a cut pile while new work takes their place on the wall. It's a bit like paper Jenga. Next slide, please. Be surprised by where you can revise. The summer of 2016 put my family on the road. We're running our new little RPod camper through its paces to chase sun, live music, and Saturday farmers markets. The standard worded itinerary consisted of Homer across the Denali Highway, top of the world to Dawson City, and the long road south to Vancouver, BC. We could not have anticipated the devastating fires that just days later closed 97, our route north, and prompted a wider swing through Alberta to return home. But in my mind, this itinerary is still viewed more as a series of revision points of small town libraries and Wi-Fi and kind of Wi-Fi access from this campground or the next. I was in the thick of editing my first collection, Something Yet to Be Named, and emailing its various parts to my editor in preparation for a September publication while 2 months on the road. Haida poet Susan Musgrave suggests that poetry is subject to revision if the poem insists. Certainly a stout desk is ideal for revision work, but so are picnic tables, long ago beach logs above the high tide line, and coffee shops busy with flurry and noise that quickly shift to the background while poetry work commands center stage. Poems are both needy and demanding in their want for revision, and they don't care about the setting. Further, I can't recommend enough applying for writing residencies, and there are some amazing opportunities here in the state. Those who oversee such sacred space give so much of themselves to ensure that writers have exactly what they need to move forward in their writing. In fact, they're often writers themselves. I am especially grateful to Jeff Brady of Alderworks in Dyea and Aaron Coughlin-Hollowell of Story Knife and Homer for the writing experiences both residencies provided me in recent years. Next slide, please. Spread your work widely like spruce pollen, cottonwood, dandelion, and fireweed seed. Former Alaska poet laureate Sheila Nickerson once suggested keeping a rolling number of 6 submissions out in the world at any given time for possible publication. This is sound advice. Programs such as Submittable, Duotrope, and even a simple Excel document can keep you organized on what is out there and what ultimately is published. Strive for 6 per year and maybe the following year, 6 per month. Have a short list of publications in which you'd love to see your work appear. Send your work to the annual creative writing contest sponsored by ADN and UAA, or the statewide poetry contest sponsored by Fairbanks Arts. In the past, I've rolled my own poetry proceeds into my annual 49 Writers membership or my Alaska Women Speak subscription. Writing opportunities abound in Alaska. Jump in. Next slide, please. Say yes to all the readings. As someone who is, in fact, shy and can be known to fret at the idea of public readings, I've learned to embrace the beauty that these moments present. And I can rock that understanding all the way back to 1992 with sage advice from my all-time favorite Central Washington University English prof, the Neil Young loving Jane Hale. Readings are the reminder that someone, somewhere, has taken an interest in what you've committed to the page, and they want to hear you share it. I've learned over the years to say yes to the opportunity, to allow myself the freak out moment, and to carry on. Because when the reading begins, you enter that hushed space in which a poem transfers from a giver to a receiver, trickling from paper to tongue to ear. In fact, the reading becomes a smooth slide into line break and pause as it syncs with breath. Poetry has allowed me to give readings in cabins, auditoriums, bookstores, museums, on public radio, pubs, and wild places with an audience of just me, sky, and wind. I've burned one copy of my first book after filling it with letters and runes, hoping it would reach an intended recipient in an unknown destination. I've sunk poems in the sea, taped them to windows of businesses as protest for one thing or another. I've written poems to mourn. and I've written even more poems to heal. I've even written poems to woo, some of these read with other poets long into summer nights that may as well have been day, given copious light, each round progressively smoother with wine, sultrier in voice, and oh, let me read this one to you. Next slide, please. And on that note, oh, let me read some to you. I have 5 poems I'd like to share, and what I can say collectively of the 5 is they're all fairly new, and none of them appear in the collections. They all kind of sit upstairs though, waiting their manuscript placement, and one of these days I'll figure out the Jenga of that one, but I know these 5 fit together. The first one is a sonnet. It's a bit of rhyme. There's some birds. And it also entailed a couple trips to the John Haynes homestead, north of Delta Junction, south of Fairbanks, and near the Tanana. Songbird, I offer you refuge, for the poet John Haynes, 1924 to 2011. Of cracked, weathered wood, aged by freeze and thaw, hewn by hand, eye of plain shape, box, arrows point, full moon assembled with rust, mismatched screws, crude shelter, for songbird of trill, jiddit, hover and flutter. The poet once scrawled words across the parchment peel of paper birch trees, cast lines of poems piecemeal to the sky, carried by ruby-crowned kinglets, migrating north for another season. Ringlets gathered to construct nest of twig, spiderweb, moss, lined by conifer needle, feather, down, crisscrossed with the poet's own craft of homesteading. Amble, the long road north, clear forest, cut trail, haggle, stout roof upon 4 walls, carve a door facing south, an ear for sweet bird verse, a page for word of mouth. This one is my wild card. When even the astrologer says you're fucked. Connect the dots. You trace the lines of constellations with a dull tip pencil. Squint, a sun bear, a mariner's astrolabe, a rainforest bracken. The night sky is a hand-blown water glass replete with ambient kindness, and you question the message as you would the paper fortune wrapped in a cookie or the head side of a penny found at your feet. The struggle is real, reckoning which star to pluck to burnish warm copper with steel wool and some lemon juice. But when that scrubbing turns tempest, elbow grease and gale, you shift gears from wondering where the leap of luck went wrong and marvel that sometimes shiny still glimmers, kindled rose under all that patina. This one is called Troubadour. And this is where I insert that note. You can never assume, that the speaker of the poem and the poet are the same, but you should always keep wondering. Troubadour. Steve Miller belts the pompadour of love, and who even knows what the hell that means? He once performed this song in the arena behind student housing, through smoke and haze, under field light, starlight, light of heart, I've shimmied to it, shared mingled breath with another in darkened bars, shaken booty not stirred around tables laden with glasses, anchored haphazardly to wet rings, soggy napkins. Glasses vesseling fathoms, channeling ambered uncertainties, opaque braggadocios. I've kindled rooms with combustible laughter, held captivated by ephemeral memory of murky corners, right-angled and sweet. Lit by cedar flame, stoked by driftwood, I have burned feet to beat, tripped the light fantastic, to blur the illuminated border of past and present. I've strived to carry love across. This is another new one. It hasn't found its home yet, but it will. Like a sniff of pepper. All our passwords contain 1539, the combination of his lucky number and mine. I can share this in an unpublished poem, assured that it won't be thieved by a migrating robin or a thrush, too busy unlocking the newly warmed earth for grub and worm. When the poet asked, "Do you look east or west for wordly inspiration?" I consider the glass star candle holder high on the shelf, its rounded face seeking only the Hyperborean, lost galaxy, while shimmer pole dancing to wanty light through the late night hour. My scarf packed away for the season, buds detonate from the corkscrew willow, pesky alder, prickled salmonberry, soon leafing. I know little of explosives, of spruce bursting pollen blooms, of playing the hand I've been dealt. But I know that love, like grief, comes on like the tickle of a sneeze, quiet, unexpected, sudden. My last poem it's actually one that that was published in last year's Tidal Echoes, so 2021, and I had sent in this little kind of triad of 3 poems, and they were all kind of camping, shelter, tenting related. And the other 2, you know, something was different about this one. The other 2 were firmly planted in the past. And then this one, it kind of walks itself forward a little bit or a lot. So I'd like to share this one. And actually, I kind of read this one for a friend. So it's titled "Heart is a Burning State." I hail from the crimson heart, tissue papered organ, one part sinew, other sponge, tied by a stout butcher's knot, one end knotted, the other anchored. Heart scatters memories in sepia, snapping campfire, twinkled eye, morning lantern's light filtered through mesh of branch, screen of tent, trailed feathered cirrus. Heart is mapped by huckleberries, stippling the verdant branch, raspberries dotting my palm like Google map markers, red, teardropped, they travel measured like a beat from tongue to belly. Those from heart dwell in tiny homes with open shuttered windows. Unlocked doors lead to light in airy chambers. On a windowsill perches a stellar's jay, blue jar cobalt, indigo plumed cry. Its morning squawk bellows to friends, would-be lovers. For peanuts, it will sing a song for gooseberries flight. Soon, I'll pull tent stakes, dry and flagfold shelter, shed this heart, cultivate another. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you to Emily and everybody for sponsoring this and putting it on tonight. It's been pretty wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Kirsten. All right, I keep trying to call you Kristen, and that's just not your name. It looks like we already have a question, which is nice. Jonas Lamb asks, any advice to others for how to turn pop earworms like those by Steve Moeller Band and Fleetwood Mac into personal poems with universal appeal?
It's the line that sticks in your head, Jonas. It's good to hear from you, by the way. Yeah, it's the line that sticks in your head. In my other book, or in the books I have, I actually touch upon Fleetwood Mac a lot. And for me, it's just kind of what plays in that moment. And you know, the earworm line that lands itself somewhere else. Though I am starting to see editors of journals be a little grumpy about that. They don't want to see a line of somebody else's work unless you can, you know, get the permission and actually cite it. So I've been a little lax in that, but it's fun. It is fun.
All right, does anyone else have any questions they'd like to ask Kirsten before we head out? All right, another one from Jonas. What grade do you teach? Any luck planting the poetry seed in the next generation?
Oh.
What poets/poems do you love to teach or find students connecting with?
Oh gosh. Well, I teach grades 9 through 12 at Sitka High School. And I have a little bit of everything. I have English 1 with freshmen. I have English 2 with sophomores. I have mythology, a couple sections of that with juniors and seniors. And I have creative writing. And I love all these classes, but I really enjoy creative writing because it's that opportunity for students to just explore format, try different things, try publishing for the first time sometimes. And it's really exciting, you know, through the process of a year to see a student very reluctant about writing poetry. I'm thinking of one in particular who comes in every day and is telling me, you know, I can't stop writing poetry now. And she's handing me her phone. She's, you know, giving me scraps of paper. Read this. And it's just an exciting process to see that happen. So yeah, I don't know, you know, in terms of poets and connections, I know a couple years ago when COVID shut everything down, we read a lot of Joy Harjo that year. And when it came down to April and doing the Dear Poet project that students can write into poets, a lot of them wrote to Joy Harjo that year. And the letters were inspiring and sometimes painful to read because there's just a lot of confusion about where'd school go, you know, and I'm still doing this homework and I don't see any other humans. And yeah, she was a source of inspiration for a lot of students that year.
All right, well, it seems like we're out of time for Kirsten's Q&A session. If you want to find out more about her, then you can find her at KirstenChristianson.com. It's super easy to find, very direct. I love it. Yeah. Shailene?
If you're interested in purchasing a copy of Tidal Echoes, it'll be available in various stores throughout Juneau, including the Juneau Arts and Humanities Center, Kindred Post, Hearthside Books, Annie Kales, Alaska Robotics, the Juneau Douglas City Museum, and Rainier Treat. It will also be available at various bookstores throughout Southeast Alaska, including those in Ketchikan, Sitka, Haines, Gustavus, and Skagway.
And to end our evening and get you guys really excited about this beautiful book that is the culmination of all of our hard work, we just wanted to show a poetry reading by this year's winner of the Mac Barron's Prize, which is Lily Pothier. This beautiful video was shot and directed by Kaasteen Rochelle Smallwood. Here is Lily Pothier reading To Cradle. Am I supposed to play the video? Okay, well, let's get this up. Forgive me. Give me just a moment. Unless, of course, Shailene wants to play it. No, it's fine. In all the preparation I did for this event, I did not anticipate this happening. We're almost there, I swear. Let's see.
These are old, rugged-barked hemlocks, conjoined, but one of them is hollowed out. Scooped away by decay, even as it remains upright. The living one, held like a love around the waist, is whole, skin unbroken, deeply grooved and luscious with resin. When I halt, I demur the dead tree. Eyes closed, I lean towards the living until I feel the crisp, delicate first impression of her scabs. Center gravity in my forehead, pressing harder so the pattern of her bark is etched upon me. Coalesced into the living tree, I dare to fill myself with an artificial bloom, bright sky splendor I try and hold on to preserve its immensity in shallow memories, to have a color for sucking on later. It's nothing but the reflection of itself. To cradle.
All right. Thank you all for coming.